So this is an important concept actually in bioethics. Here you can see that the concept of 3R. One is, I will tell you what are the three meaning of the 3Rs. So to begin with, 3Rs are actually an idea introduced by W.M.S. Russell and R.L. Birch, and that was in the year 1959. Why we are using that principle is that it is a way, because experiment on animals in science is unavoidable. If you completely ban animal experimentation, we cannot bring out any new medicines. So to some extent we have to allow animal experimentation, but there should be some principle on the basis of which this experiment should be conducted. Earlier, researchers and scientists were killing animals simply in the name of research. And there are different types of scientists. Some scientists may be very honest. Some may be simply killing animals and they will not be bringing out any output. So killing hundreds of animals and not bringing any valuable output for the society means it's simply a cruelty to the animal. That is why these sort of principles are now being enforced by relevant authorities as well as government. So here you can see what are the important terms under the 3R principle. One is replacement, reduction and refinement. Replacement means when an animal can be replaced with some other method, we have to always opt for that. That is the meaning of the method. Methods which avoid or replace the use of animals in research. As far as possible, this is the ideal method. If because instead of using animal, if we are able to use certain software or animal model software will be there, then that will be more useful, less time consuming and less cruel also. So that is one way by which we can reduce the use of animals, or other methods can be adopted. Then reduction. So if you are, instead of killing 10 animals, we can get the same result by simply using one animal. Because if we are planning it and we are utilizing the time properly, we don't need to kill 10 animals. Instead, the same data can be obtained by killing one animal. So that is the principle of reduction. Use of method that enable the researchers to obtain more information from fewer animals. Because if you allow the researchers to kill as much number of animals, most of the researchers may not be very responsible. They would be simply killing animal and wasting their time. So there will not be any responsibility on the part of scientists. Just because they are doing research, all scientists are not honest people. That happens in every field. Then refinement. Use of methods that alleviate. Alleviate means reduce or minimize the potential pain, suffering or distress. That is, when we are killing an animal, we should not cause too much pain for that animal. That is the meaning of the word refinement. So by giving them anesthetic, we can reduce the pain or torture to the animal. That is the meaning of the word refinement. So any method that we can adopt to reduce or minimize the pain or suffering of the animal is coming under the term refinement, and that can enhance. Enhance means improve the animal welfare. So these are the three fundamental principles that are enforced or that are mainly presented in 3R principle introduced by Russell and Birch in the year 1959. Now this is the main principle on which the modern science is actually going on. The 3R have a broader scope than simply encouraging alternative to animal testing, but aim to improve the animal welfare. And so two important aspects are coming. One, we have to improve, we have to make sure that animals are not killed or tortured simply on the basis of experimentation. Second aspect is that when such a rule is there, the scientists and researchers will be very careful. They will be doing a lot of background work, they will be doing a lot of preparatory work, they will plan their time very effectively, or they will be collaborating with other people. So when they are killing an animal, they want to get maximum number of maximum data should be obtained. So that is why These kind of rigid or strict rules are now being enforced by many countries. Then in many countries, these three are now explicit in legislation governing animal use. So that's not only in India, in most parts of the world, these three R's are an important part of the animal welfare rule. Then as well, so the same aspect is now being discussed in a better way. You can see the replacement refers to preferred use of non-animal methods. I have already told you, and use in attainment of similar result. Some of the practical alternatives that follow the replacement can include cell culture, in vitro models, or imaging and computer models. Nowadays, for example, you are doing dissection. The same data that you are the same result that you are visualizing through a dissection can be obtained by a computer software where you can do a digital dissection. So instead of killing the animal, you can do a digital dissection of the frog, so that you will be able to get better idea of that. So this is what is suggested in case of replacement. Then extraction of insulin from bacterial culture is amongst the most popular example. For example, earlier insulin was mainly taken from some vertebrate animal like cow or horse. So now it is being replaced by we are using biotechnology. We are producing insulin from bacteria. So we are introducing insulin gene into the bacteria, and the bacteria will be producing insulin. So that will be more pure, more easier to produce also in large number. So that is why the cost of the insulin has came down a lot. So because we are using basically insulin produced from bacterial cultures. So these are some examples where we can adopt replacement as a strategy for animal welfare. Then in the use of reduction, there are a lot of ideas will be again discussed here. So reduction simply means utilization of better statistical analysis and quality design. So that when we plan the research in a proper way, we don't need to kill too many number of animals. Instead of killing 10, maybe the same data can be obtained by killing only one animal. So one general way in which great reduction may occur is by the right choice of strategies in planning and performance of all animal lines. So unless your method are not very accurate, your method is not perfect, then even if you are killing 100 animals, you may not be able to get the proper result. So the first thing we have to do, a researcher has to make sure that his method is accurate, his method is correct, he is not following a bad method or incorrect method. So that is also the responsibility of a researcher. A second method is by controlling the variation among the animal used. So even when we are using the animal, we have to make sure that the type of animal that we are killing is satisfying all the required for the health of the animal, the weight of the animal, the size of the animal. All this should be checked before killing the animal. Otherwise, killing a smaller animal or a younger animal or killing an older animal, that may be leading to inaccurate result. So third method is careful about the design and analysis of study. So before killing, the scientist has to do a lot of background work. Then what he or she is going to do with the data produced from the research, that also should be analyzed and planned very carefully. So with the advanced development availability of computer, the original 3R, large data set can be used in statistical analysis. Thereby, for example, nowadays we don't need too much data. From a smaller data, we can produce a more complicated version of the same data, and we can use it for analysis. That kind of statistical software now available, and we can use such a type of software. In some cases, using previously published studies, the use of animals can be totally avoided by avoiding unnecessary. For example, sometimes what happens is that in one part of the world, for example in Europe or in America or in Japan or in China, the type of research that we are going to do has been already conducted. Then there is no sense in doing the same research on another rat or a monkey or a horse or any other group of animal by simply repeating the same result. So if you want to do the same work, instead of going for a extensive killing, maybe with one animal we can check whether that result is accurate. So that way we can greatly reduce the number of animals being killed by doing lot of proper background check. Modern imaging technique in conjunction with the new statistical analysis. For example, nowadays, when the doctors are working with human beings, what they are doing, they do not always go for a surgery. If they have some doubt about some of working of a brain, or if there is some cancer, what they do, they go for an imaging, like EEG, electroencephalograph, or some scanning technique. The same method we can also adopt it in the case of animal. So that we don't need to directly dissect and cut open the animal. Instead of that, we will be able to get the same result by using an imaging technique or a non-invasive or non-surgical method. So that way we will be able to reduce the number of animals being killed here. Then finally, refinement. Refinement, we have discussed what is the meaning of the word refinement. Refinement of animal procedure refers to improvement of scientific techniques that minimize the pain and suffering over the lifetime. For example, once we do some experiments on an animal will be having some pain. Sometimes that animal will be still living. Then that means that animal will have to live with the consequence of the experiments that we have conducted on that animal. That means animal will be enduring, or animal will be experiencing a lifelong suffering or lifelong pain because of our research. That is what has to be taken into care, because when we do some kind of research, we have to make sure we have a responsibility to that animal. That animal is not tortured. The animal is living. For example, the animal is living after for 5 years or 10 years, and if we have done we have removed or we have injected some medicine, that medicine may be sometimes damaging certain areas of the animal. That means animal will be experiencing a lot of problem later. Then we have to give them proper treatment. All these are responsibility of the scientist. Refinement of the techniques helps to mitigate means reduce conditions that cause hormonal imbalance such as stress and discomfort. Just like human beings, if there is some kind of discomfort, animals also experience psychological stress, and that psychological stress can greatly reduce their lifespan later. So same in the human. For example, you are working in a very tense situation. There are a lot of hormones produced in your body, like cortisol, adrenaline. All these hormones can adversely affect the functioning of various organs. The same thing happens in these animals also. Their body metabolism can be adversely affected because of the use of certain techniques. So they will have a stress, and that can also reduce their lifespan. And refinement technique may include appropriate anesthetic and analgesic. Appropriate anesthetic means painkiller. So when instead of you directly killing the animal, we have to use some painkiller before killing the animal, or before doing any kind of surgery on that. Training animals to voluntarily cooperate with the procedure. For example, blood sampling, so that they have a greater control over the procedure to reduce the distress. So that is also by using certain domesticated animal, by training the animal properly, so that they may be they may not be resisting that blood taking procedure to them. Otherwise, if you are simply tying the animal legs, hands of the animal and taking the blood, that is more cruel way. Instead of just like human beings are cooperating with the nurse to take the blood, if the animals are also trained in such a way that they may not experience too much psychological discomfort. The provision of species appropriate housing and environmental enrichment, which meet animal physical and behavioral needs. For example, providing opportunity for nesting. So after the use of this animal, they should be given proper care. They should be given proper food. Then only animal will be feeling okay. If this aspect has been neglected, that is, I have done my research, simply throw the animal away. Sometimes it may die, sometimes it may live. If that kind of an approach may not be ideal for a responsible scientist, that is why this principle known as refinement is an important thing. Refinement simply means reduce the pain, treat the animal properly, care the animal properly. That is the fundamental idea present in refinement. Then, so in the use of animals, if you are using animals in research, animals are used to learn more about living things and about the illness that affect. But one important reason why animals are, for example, we are all vertebrates. If you are experimenting some medicine on a invertebrate, that may not be producing accurate result. So that is why we are using monkeys. Monkeys, rabbits are used, rats are used, because all these are mammals, and mammalian body system and our own body system are almost identical. So if we are producing a result in a monkey, we will be able to get almost similar data or similar result in human beings also. That is why we have to use some kind of animal experimentation always. So by studying animals, it is possible to obtain information that cannot be learned in any other way. That is why it is necessary. When a new drug or surgical technique is developed, society deems it unethical to use that drug or technique first in human beings, because of the possibility that it could cause harm rather than, because society always have a preference for our own species. As human beings, we want to protect a human being, a life of human, more than the life of an animal. That is a selfishness of human being, but still we have to make sure that other animals are simply not tortured. So in the drug or technique is tested in animal to make sure that it is safe and effective for use in human beings. So animals are also offer experimental model that would be impossible to replicate using human subject. So that is another. Then animals can be fed identical and closely monitored diet that can be possible when the two animals can be given separate type of diet, and we can notice, we can observe what are the variation. As with inbred mice, members of some animal species are genetically identical, enabling researchers to compare different procedure to identical animal. For example, sometimes when we are working on it is easier for researchers to produce genetically similar clone type of animals. For example, two rats with both are just like identical twins. It is easier to produce such kind of rat or such kind of monkeys easier in animal rather than human beings. So when the researcher is studying the use of certain drugs, they will be able to compare how the same drug is producing producing some result in two identical genes or two genetically clones. So that is the advantage of using animal. Some animals have biological similarity to human being that make them particularly good model for species research, such as rabbit for atherosclerosis, monkeys for polio. That is why we are using this kind of animals for research. Animals are also indispensable rapidly growing field of biotechnology, where they are used to develop, test and make new products such as monoclonal antibody. So this is why we cannot stop the use of animal, but what we can do is that we can reduce the use of animal. Mammals are essential to researchers because they are closest to us. That is why instead of using some insect or cockroach or other pest type of species, we are forced to use mammals itself. For example, many diseases that affect human beings also affect other mammals, but they do not occur in insect, plants or bacteria. So instead of going for killing a monkey, we cannot do the same thing in an insect or in a reptile. That is why we are forced to do it in a mammal itself. So here last point is that fewer animals are used in research than earlier used. So because of increased animal welfare measures, an estimated 70 to 22 million vertebrate animals are used each year in research. 22 million means 2.2 crores of animals. So you can imagine how many animals are being killed or being subjected to this kind of torture technique in the name of research. About 85% of these animals are rat and mice that had been bred for research. Then in the financial year 1980, about 1,42,000 dogs are used, 52,000 cats are used, and 40 to 50,000 of these dogs are specifically for research. Nowadays what happens is that because researchers need a particular type of animal or particular breed of animal, those breeds of animals will be bred mainly for that, so that there will be more previous data available on that. Between 50,000 to 60,000 non-human primates like monkeys and chimpanzees. So you can see that when you say that animals are being used in research, lot of animals are used in research worldwide. So that is why some kind of measures should be there to reduce their pain. So that is why these two scientists have suggested 3R principle. Now this principle is now being universally enforced in most of the countries.